Between them, they've been coming to MIPIM for a combined 37 years. They've seen the boom times, the quiet years and everything in between. Norman and Ray aren't just familiar faces in Cannes, they're the Godfathers. And in this uncut bonus interview, they share the stories, the lessons and the truths that you won't find on the stage or in a brochure. And if you happen to spot the former England international footballer making a cameo in the background, then drop it in the comments below. We're watching. Let's get into it.
Norman Taylor. I'm representing a company called Stellaris Group, which is a development. I first came to MIPIM representing my architectural practice, Rodder Wilkinson, 20 years ago.
20 years?
Yeah, 20 years ago. And yeah, MIPIM's obviously changed a lot, but the reason I came to MIPIM was to meet people. When I first came, I didn't know anybody in MIPIM. I came the second year after handing out 200 business cards, and people seemed to know who I was. So MIPIM, you know. So yeah, that's the reason why I came.
So, and what about you? What's your name?
I'm Ray McCauley, and I came to MIPIM first in 2008, and I was told that there was this legend bloke here I needed to meet. That's the reason I came. No, but seriously, I came with a construction company I used to work for, and literally been back every year. And to me, I think if you come to MIPIM thinking you get hard sell, push, it's not about that. It's about building friendships, relationships, and the number of times at MIPIM, the things you don't see is how much support and help people give people. And I was on one occasion, in fact, where we get an opportunity and some friends were sitting on the table right beside us, and we put them in touch that very evening, and they got some work from it. And I think that's what it's all about. People reciprocally help other people, and great friendships develop.
There is certainly a lot of camaraderie in there. You know,
There is,
you meet people year
Massive,
after year.
yeah.
Tell me how you've seen it like change in the 20 years.
Oh, it's a good question. For me, when I first came, it was a lot of people that were completely smashed, drunk, and incoherent. And actually, that to me wasn't what it's all about. I think it calmed down, and probably 2008, 9, 10, when there was a difficult period, in the financial sort of markets and the like, that calmed it down, and then there were a lot more sensible conversations going on, which is good. And I think since then, really, it's been pretty good the whole way, through. And
Changes at MIPIM.
Yeah, I mean, change. I think what I've noticed the most is that the big sort of flamboyant, extravagant, villa parties. There are still some, but they're not really as many. And people were spending just a ridiculous amount of money on entertaining and whatever. I think now people are more focused. I think they send less people from their companies, they send the more senior people rather than
more
just
focused.
more focused, much more focused.
Good word, more focused.
Yeah, because I don't know, like people saying, UK Reef's taking over from MIPIM.
Good point.
What's your view on that?
I think UK Reef is absolutely fantastic, particularly for the public sector, and I can understand why clients and all the people that come to MIPIM want to go to UK Reef, and it's got its place. I think though there's still a place for MIPIM, and I don't think you can really beat the generally not this year because it's not nice weather, but generally the relaxed climate that Cannes gives you, and it's just drops barriers, and it's just a lovely environment. I can understand it's costly to get here, and I can understand why people might think, is MIPIM still got a place? I think it's a place for both of them.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm a big fan of MIPIM.
Yeah.
Now, also, when I've been talking to people, they always talk about this MIPIM moment. It's a saying, right?
Yeah.
What does the MIPIM moment mean to you?
The MIPIM moment are the things that couldn't occur anywhere else other than MIPIM and Cannes. And I mean, it's interesting. I've had so many MIPIM moments over the year that I've been encouraged to write a book about MIPIM moments, and not mentioning any names to protect the innocent.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, it's just the funny little things that can happen in Cannes, and yeah,
You're going to share one. Like
Most
favourite MIPIM moment?
Most of my MIPIM moments involve Norman, quite frankly, because he's accident prone and he does things. And I think probably they don't have to necessarily occur in Cannes. They could be en route to or from Cannes. And there's one in particular. where every time I think of it, my shoulders sort of start rattling. And that was basically where we were coming to MIPIM one year, and it wasn't good weather, and Norman, very sensibly brought an umbrella, which is great. And at Luton Airport, he proceeded to stab this young lady with his umbrella as we set off to get the plane. And the poor lady was doubled over. And her partner was an Aussie guy who sort of said, "Oh, great shot, mate." And Norman had no clue that he'd done it until I had to turn around and say, "Norman," and he was like, "Oh my goodness, I didn't." Anyway, but there was a lot more to that story, but that was the gist of it. But then I think when we got to MIPIM one year, we got off the bus, we got into Cannes, got a taxi, but Norman jumped in, sat in the driver's seat of the taxi, and we're all standing there saying, "Norman, you're on the wrong side," and like the taxi driver standing outside his taxi going, what's going on? Thank you. So, and there's a good example of MIPIM. Look, a little bit of network been going on with people we don't know.
Yeah, I'm in my accident. I am terribly accident prone. And one year I came with a really nice new pair of beige cotton trousers.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And at 1:30 in the morning, walking up the Rue Antibes, there was a man painting all the green balls with a little roller. And Ray said, "Don't walk too close, Norm, because you'll get paint on your trousers." And I looked down and I got paint on the trousers. But I did find, anyway, yeah, so it's just sort of silly little things. But
I think the other thing for me with MIPIM is not packing your diary too much, because when you're walking along between meetings, you're always
Order some breakfast, guys, and I'll go and order it for you. Otherwise, you'll be.
I think you're always going to bump in to somebody you need and want to have a conversation with. So chance meetings for me are the best. So in terms of MIPIM moments, for me, another MIPIM moment is just bumping into somebody that you want to see. Serendipity kicks in, and it's like, oh my goodness, and where else could you meet them?
Yeah,
in such,
Yes.
And barriers are down, and it's Well,
that, I mean, in fairness, that was how we met, wasn't it?
it was.
Like,
It was.
It was a MIPIM moment.
It was.
Do you want to recall the story where you was having dinner up in the near the Charlie's bar?
Oh
We
yes,
were
on the Sunday
on
night.
the table next
Indeed.
to
And I was regaling to Ray. I just arrived at MIPIM and I was doing a project in Kent, and this was on a Sunday, and the contractor was working on site. He just arrived, and he realised that the site wasn't the size or shape that he thought it was. So he said, "What am I going to do? Well, we've got to get it sorted." And I realised I needed a new survey done. And I'm sitting in this restaurant with Ray, and I said to Ray, "Oh, you won't believe it. I'll come all the way to Cannes. Now I've got to sort out a problem. I need this thing." And he turned around
I said, "Norman, give me a second." And I walked down 5 metres away, and there was Peter and Claire sat on another table. And I said, "Peter, we've got a minute. Claire, there's a survey needs doing."
Yeah.
Peter came up, chats with Norman. "No problem, we'll be there Monday."
Can you do the survey tomorrow?
The next day, did the survey.
And you did?
That is about that connectivity where everyone wants to help everyone.
Yeah.
And it worked out a treat, didn't it?
It did.
It's worked out really good because it was about the job, right? It wasn't about the job.
No.
It was about us meeting.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we were talking about.
Yeah,
Right? It's
it
that
is.
connection.
It is.
Not just the little bits of business that come from it.
No,
You're right.
no.
Connections are lifelong.
I think
Connections are lifelong.
I think people come to MIPIM with a complete misapprehension that they're going to come to MIPIM, go home with a big bag full of projects or work. That isn't really what MIPIM's about. MIPIM's about meeting the people. It's up to you then to follow it up, build that relationship, and then if work follows, it could be 6 months, a year, 18 months later. It doesn't really matter, does it? Because you've met the people that you wouldn't have met, and you develop that relationship. And I think the thing with MIPIM particularly is that, and if people haven't experienced it, once you've met people in Cannes and you've spent evenings and whatever sharing stories and having a nice drink and having a nice meal, you have your relationships on a slightly different level as a result.
Yeah, of course it is.
You can
Sure,
relate,
yeah.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Chatting and informal and relaxed.
Yes.
But in terms of business, it's not about business, but it sort of is.
Yeah.
We're all here for one thing.
Well, yeah.
And are you able to quantify like value, say numbers, but like over the years you've been, deals have been done.
Yes. Yeah.
For me, Peter, it's interesting because Norman's absolutely right. Predominantly, it's about relationship building, and Oh, that was good. And ensuring we do.
Backdrop sound of MIPIM, that bottles.
Yeah. That's just last
Sorry,
night's.
right.
That's just last night's bottles being cleared. No, it's predominantly about relationships. But having said that, there was one particular year where I was here, got a phone call from a quantity surveyor, well-known quantity surveyor, wanted to meet 3 contractors. The main contractor I worked for, I was the only one that was registered in the book. He knew me well. He rang me, Ray, and he talked to me about a defence sector project up in the northwest of England. And I didn't know about the scheme, but he told me lots about it. So after the 20-minute meeting at Café Roma with a coffee, off he went. I sat with my little notebook, rang the defence director of the project, the company, who said, Ray, this is fantastic. We're tracking this scheme. In terms of a jigsaw, we had 250 pieces. You've just brought us another 300 pieces of the jigsaw. And this company I worked for won the project. It was a £20 million first phase job. And because the contract that was the incumbent contractor on the site, the future phases naturally went. So it led to £80 million worth of work. Now that MIPIM has probably paid for all the rest of my MIPIMs and combined really. But that was a direct hit. Now in terms of the game Battleships, that's the one. I've had 1 or 2 direct hits like that. Mostly it's things where later somebody picks up and says, "Oh, can we follow up on that?" Or you follow up and it leads to opportunity. But that really was an exact, that was a MIPIM moment in a way. That probably for me was
Any battleships direct hits you've had?
Yeah, I've had quite a few over the years. I think the most interesting one is on a personal level. So the second or third year I came was the year that Capita bought a professional services design called Simons, and that became Capita Simons. And the 2 people in Simons that I didn't know, was introduced to, were sitting on a cafe on the Croisette. And being fairly bold, I went up to them and I said, "Oh, you've just sold your business to Capita, yeah." And then we had an interesting chat about how much. And then we then from there developed a relationship. Just a few years later, I get a phone call from one of those people to say, "Are you interested in selling your business?"
Wow.
And I ended up selling my architectural business to Capita Simons. And had I not had that encounter in MIPIM, I would never have somebody might have bought us, but it's that relation. It's a
direct.
It is, yeah. So it is, yeah. So that was a bit of a MIPIM moment, really.
That's amazing. I think going forwards, Peter.
Yeah.
So Norman and I have been described as like the godfathers of MIPIM, and I think that's because we're probably the oldest people that still come to MIPIM, and hopefully we're trusted, and that's wonderful. But I had a great conversation with a well-known structural engineer last year, and he said, Ray, he said, "I'm ever so glad you still come to MIPIM." And I said, "Oh, that's nice, Richard." And he said, "Because that means there's always somebody older than me at MIPIM, you see." So with that, I said, "Listen, we'll keep coming," I said, "but Norman and I, the knees are getting dodgy, the hips, so I said, we're thinking of getting a Benidorm-style double motorised scooter." And I said, "But we'll have branding on it. So, the only problem is going up Rue de Souquet in the little, but so we need a little 2-seater job, and we can just be sort of waving. But it'll have Spatial Dimensions on the side. It'll have Frankums, and we think this is the way forward. Actually, we think, Benidorm. MIPIM come Benidorm could just be the way forwards for us as we age, because we want to keep coming."
Yeah, I think you should, because I describe you two as legends, godfathers. Is a
Oh,
great
bless
way
you.
to say it. You are legends of MIPIM. Every year I look forward to meeting you and chatting with you.
Oh, bless you.
And
Thank you.
it is quite flattering. I mean, I find it flattering, and that people say, years I've said I'm not going to go to MIPIM, and they said, "No, you've got to come to MIPIM, because MIPIM wouldn't be MIPIM without you." And
That's nice,
it's nice that
that is
people
nice.
say that. It really is very nice that people do.
Just characters. MIPIM for me is about characters.
Yes.
Definitely,
Yeah.
Peter. Yeah.
Well, I personally belong to characters.
Yeah.
I do.
Me too.
Well, but we all know, don't we, when we're in business, it isn't about the company you represent. It's about the people. It's all about people.
Definitely.
Do you relate to people? Do you trust the people? Do you like the people? And that's 90% of why people do business together, because you have that synergy, and you can't, you can't fake that. That's a sort of genuine.
I can't let you go without asking you about Charlie's Bar. I can't, because explain Charlie's Bar to those people that don't know. What is Charlie's Bar and what happens up there?
Charlie's Bar is a great meeting point, and it kind of builds during the week. There's a lot of people in the early week part of MIPIM want to get their work done, business done, but maybe on the Thursday night particularly, it's getting towards the end of the week, Charlie's Bar will host, it's a small, tiny little bar really, up in Old Cannes, and it attracts a massive crowd of people, a lot of Brits predominantly, and we often get a playlist up that one of the guys does the DJing, and I guess dancing, and more dancing, and more dancing, and a little bit of drinking, but yeah, absolutely.
Because the rumours are, these are only rumours, I've not witnessed it with my own eyes, Ray, is that you're quite nifty on your feet.
Yes, he is. He's a legend.
Travolta-esque, I would say.
Travolta-esque. When Ray, I mean, it's only a small nightclub, but you remember the famous John Travolta scene in the film where the dance floor. People move to one side. Well, it's just like that when Ray goes on the dance floor, because people are looking at him thinking, "Oh my God, we didn't realise we had someone with that talent in our midst."
Norman, I think it's more they're clearing a space thinking because he's going to need bloody,
going to need some support.
He's going to need a paramedic in a moment.
Yeah, but
no, I love dancing, Peter. I can't help myself. And funny enough, this year I got asked to do a little cha-cha-cha breakfast thing for one of the ladies here who wanted something different to get everyone up. Get dancing first in the morning. So yesterday morning, I did a little cha-cha-cha breakfast. It's only a 2 or 3 minute thing, getting everyone up dancing. So that's really sweet, isn't it?
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yes, but
final couple of questions for me. What advice would you give to a newbie to succeed?
Right. So, well, I'll preface that by saying a few years ago, it was I think it was about 2019, end of 2019. I was invited by Women in Property to talk to 60 ladies that hadn't been to MIPIM before about how to do MIPIM, and it was a very tough job, and I had to talk about what MIPIM's about and what you should do and what you shouldn't do. I then did a little thing, which is now, most people have posted it on LinkedIn, but you give people tips like wear the most comfortable shoes you've got. Don't buy new shoes because that's a killer. Don't ram your diary full. Make sure you've got space because you'll always meet people that you haven't met before.
Thank you. Lovely.
We're literally live in a cafe.
Go for it. Yeah, just pop them down. Lovely. Thank you.
Yes. So.
How wonderful. This is MIPIM.
Yeah.
This is MIPIM. This is a live from a cafe type thing.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. So don't ram your diary too full. Make sure you have space in your diary. Have certain fixed things, and try to get invites to certain types of events. If you can.
I think the other thing, Peter, for me is trying to plan your day, because there's a lot of walking in MIPIM. Probably I average 20,000 steps a day, and actually, if you don't allow sufficient time between your meetings, you're forever more chasing your tail. And I think the point, but the point Norman made about leaving the gaps now, I think if you ram too much, then there's never quite opportunity then to stop, and just when you meet someone by chance to say, sorry, Claire, do you want to? so, and I think the other thing for me, don't drink too heavily, go steady, because you're going to miss those important conversations or not remember them the next day. So actually, for me, whilst we all have lovely few glasses of wine or rosé, lots of conversation, but actually remembering what you've.
That's a good point, Ray.
What you've said.
I think the drink is a really important one actually, because when I first came, and I then subsequent years, I used to bring people from my company. I said to them, do under no circumstances get drunk, and I was quite hard, but I said, you're representing my business.
Remember who you're representing.
And people do remember.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, did you see those people from such and such? We've all seen it.
Yeah.
And it's not a good look at all.
Very good point.
And people do remember it. And
it reflects badly, doesn't it?
It reflects badly on your own business.
Yeah.
So it's very much a marathon, not a sprint. But you arrive on a Monday, the first day perhaps, and you're sitting in the sunshine drinking rosé. it's so easy to overdo it. But,
Let's eat.
Okay.
Let's eat.
Perfect.
Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Oh,
It's
Peter.
been a pleasure.
Lovely.
Yeah.
And there you have it, two legends of the game, and not just the property game. Massive thank you to Norman and Ray for sharing their time, their stories, and it's a reminder that in this industry, it's the relationships that matter the most. If you've enjoyed this, make sure to check out the full mini-series, The Secret Deal of Cannes, on our channel, and hit subscribe so you don't miss on what's coming next. Oh, and if you did spot the football cameo, don't forget to name drop them in the comments. Bonus points if you've got a selfie. Thanks for watching.